This is Wade, and you are in Wade World. Today, we are talking about will panicking help you? Oh! All right, first of all, we'll go to what is a panicking reaction and why do we have it? So, panicking reaction is basically when we really think about it, your cortisol levels increase, your heart beat rises, and your prefrontal cortex shuts down. So your thinking part of the brain shuts down, and you are running on basic instinct and biology. So your body's like, all right, this is the survival situation, do or die. I'm going to stop overthinking or analyzing and just act. Why do we have this feature within ourselves? Well, throughout history, human beings have had three reactions to danger that overwhelms them. So, panic is a reaction to danger. You don't panic if you're at a nice birthday party, eating cake, everything is nice. You don't like suddenly like, oh my God, panicked, unless you're on some weird medication or something. You panic when you're suddenly shocked, right? And that is because your body perceives danger. So, the three reactions that human beings have in danger, the most common ones are flight. Most people run away from danger. The less common one is fight. Some people fight in danger. And now, increasingly, the medium one is freeze. So, let us suppose in the real life, you're walking down the street, right? And you suddenly see a lion charging at you. And this is not like a happy lion trying to lick you. This is a lion that's hungry and you can see it's going to eat you. So you panic like, oh my God. Heartbeat, heartbeat rises, heart rate rises, cortisol rises. So cortisol is the hormone that basically gives your muscles the trembling, the shakes. Basically, that's like your muscles operating at a very high frequency, getting ready to do whatever you decide, run or fight, right? So the first reaction could be, let me run away from this lion that's trying to eat me. Very valid reaction. Definitely might lead to your survival. Good chances. The second reaction could be, I'm gonna try to fight this lion. So let's suppose you have like a gun or something. Okay, then that's the only case that would make sense. Like a big gun. Like you're just walking around with like a lion hunting gun, lion charging at you. You're like, oh my god, lion! Bam. So that's the fight reaction. However, because the body is designed for the jungle, but our mind is trained by our education system, media, movies. In the movies you've got like this 90-pound girl doing backflips and you know picking up men who are like 300 pounds of muscle, or even like a skinny girl beating up a skinny guy, when in reality the strength difference between men and girls is hilariously huge. Something like 99.99% of all men of all ages can beat up like 99.99% of all girls, right? And the exceptions are like some 80-year-old dude who's basically dying and on a stretcher. So what happens is, if you are in this modern world, right? So you don't have the capacity really to analyze the programming that you have had with media, with education, or whatever, but your memory retains that, right? So you have this view of yourself, like, yeah, I'm a bad, kick-ass person. I can definitely lion. I can beat it. So what happens in reality is, when you're going down the street, right? Suddenly you see a lion charging at you, trying to eat you. Usually, you would do one of the two things that are good for survival, right? You would run or you would fight if you were able. But because of that programming now, your instincts for survival clash with your instincts of your own ego, of how awesome you are and you can beat up anybody, although you've never been in a fight and you're like the baddest person in the world, right? The baddest, yeah. So you freeze. And this freeze is literally like, so imagine us as biological computers. And if you don't know computers, in computers, what happens is there are priorities of jobs. So whenever you give a computer, you're doing something on the computer, there are things that are given higher priority and lower priority. Sometimes two things, very, very rarely, you will see in Windows blue screen of death or the spinning beach ball in the Mac. Sometimes two things have an almost equal priority, and the computer just hangs because it can't decide or crashes which one to execute first, or it takes a long time to decide what happens. So this is what happens to you when you freeze. If you can't run or fight, because your education, the media you consume, all of that mental profile you have of yourself, of this badass, powerful person, comes face to face with like a 600-pound lion charging at you, and you literally can't punch a lion on the face and live. Like it's not gonna happen unless you're like some trained lion tamer, which you're not, right? So what happens is, usually in this case, you see the lion, panic. That's like in computer, it's like high priority, do this now. And it's very simple. That high priority doesn't make you freeze because it chooses like, I can run. And it's like pretty much built into your DNA. You can overcome it definitely with training. Like if you're a fighter, but you want to stay away from stupid fights, you can train yourself to, you know, avoid all fights, not fight every time. And if you're a runner, but that's hurting you, you could definitely train yourself to be a fighter in some situations. But anyway, hard coded, your body is very good at protecting itself, right? So what happens is you get panic is like the interrupt, like, yo, something's happening. So you've got to do one of these two things, either fight or flight. Usually you would run away or you would shoot the lion. But because of this modern world we live in and all the knowledge we have and everything we consume, you freeze. Why do you freeze? Is because you're pretty much, this is the problem. Your ego tells you you're amazing and badass. So you basically, your conscious mind thinks of yourself as a fighter. But because you've never actually been in fights, most of you live comfortable lives, right? You're not used to the adrenaline that's dumping in you. You're not used to the cortisol. You start shaking because basically you don't know. You think you're scared when the fact is you're not scared. It's just your body telling you like, yo, I'm shaking because I'm ready to fight or I'm ready to run. And the moment you take one action or the other, like if you start shaking, you know, if you start fighting, that shaking goes away. If you start running, that shaking goes away because that shaking is your body telling you like, uh, you might be freaking out, but I'm giving you all of this energy. It's like taking a massive, massive, massive dose of sugar or coffee. You'll start shaking and trembling. You're not in any danger if you're sitting there in your house drinking massive doses of sugary drinks or coffee or energy drinks. But you start shaking because you have so much energy. The body's like, all right, you got all this energy. Now, what are we doing with it? Right? So you freeze because you have this image of yourself as a fighter, but most of you need to flee. So if you think of yourself as a biological computer, what happens is lion is coming, fight or flee. I'm awesome, I want to fight. And the instinct is biology is like, yo, you have never been in a fight, you're not a fighter. We need to flee right now to survive. And they're equally poised. Like, your image of yourself and the propaganda that you can call it propaganda if you're not really that awesome. If you really think you're like a 90-pound girl and you can beat up a lion or beat up men who are even let's say men who are 90 pounds, you can't, right? So let's suppose you think you're awesome. That's hardware interrupting, like, I want to fight. But your body knows that, yo, you've never been in a fight, you don't know how to fight, and the best chances of you succeeding, maybe your ancestral chances of succeeding are running away, and it's like equal. So what happens is you freeze, which is literally the worst thing to do in any situation. Freezing is like the worst thing to do in any situation because that tells the danger that you're an easy prey. You're not really doing anything. Even in this situation, like a mad lion charging towards you, even if you have no guns, if you have nowhere to run, there is a very, very tiny probability that if you act the right way, make yourself bigger, shout like, hey, 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 that the lion will slow down, pause, and be a little confused, like, hey, this is prey. Why is it not running, but shouting at me in a scary voice? And that little time that the lion's confused gives you the time to run away, right? Sometimes the lion gets scared and runs away. But because your ego is massive, you freeze because you literally, your brain is telling you, you're awesome. You can literally punch this lion in the face, although you've never been in a fight your entire life. But your body's telling you, yo, you need to run right now before you become lion poop, right? That is why you freeze. In a lot of many incidents, and a lot of incidents around the world in the last 20 to 30 years, as you've seen this, like the media, the movies, they just become ridiculous, right? There's one thing that, all right, fantasy, like the superheroes, which themselves are like ridiculous sometimes. And then there's just another thing saying, yo, you can train your way to beat someone twice your size. Like, that's just not happening for most of you. That's just not happening. And even if you train yourself to beat someone twice your size, there are specific things you have to do to literally neutralize the mass advantage that they have over you. And if you, unless you're trained and you're gifted, you're not going to be able to do that, right? Imagine like a 5-year-old kid trying to hit you when you're like 18 or 19. Do you think the 5-year-old kid is going to win? No. Just, it's a huge difference in mass. So, does panicking help you? Only in the first moments. So let's go through this. Panicking is an initial reaction. And the fastest people are the ones, and if you get good enough, you don't really panic, you become very calm about it. The fastest people understand that, "Look, this reaction is telling me that something is wrong and I need to do something." Whether you're panicking about things going wrong in your life, which is literally something that's, your panicking is telling you you are in danger, your survival is in danger, right? If you, maybe you're almost going to be homeless, your survival is in danger. Maybe you don't have enough money for food, your survival is in danger because you need food. Maybe you're panicking because something happened that your brain perceives as danger. So panicking is just useful in the initial second or two, or initial moments where you have to identify the danger. That is, in today's world, the most useful quality of panicking. But if you stay in this stage longer, you are going to hurt yourself so much, because panicking without reaction, and this has to be one of the two actions. You can either fix, or you can fight or flee. And in real life, this translates to, you can fix your problem yourself or you can ask for help. Fixing your problem yourself, fighting; asking for help, fleeing. Both of which, in the long term, if they help your survival, it's all right. You can pick any of them. But this freeze again kicks in. So let's suppose you lost a job, you're going to be homeless. So you're panicking. You're like, you wake up panicking, like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my home. Oh my God, I'm going to be homeless. But you freeze because in your mind, you're this awesome, strong, independent person and who can do anything. You're like amazing. Yeah. And on your social media also, you're like amazing. But reality is, your body's telling you, yo, you are in the survival mode. Your survival is at stake here. You're going to be without a house soon. You're going to be out on the streets where danger levels are 100 times. Have ever seen how you get a little uh, stupider when you step out of the house among a lot of people? It's not that you get stupider, it's that in the house, your brain is basically completely focused and completely available to you for whatever you want to think about, because the dangers in your house are pretty much minimal. But when you go outside, even if you don't think about it consciously, your body is, and your eyes, your ears, all your senses are constantly scanning the environment for threats. This is literally a threats and input. So it's basically the reason you get stupider is not because you've become stupider when you go outside. It's because you don't have all the processing power of your mind when you are subconsciously, without any training. This is biology, right? It's genetics. You subconsciously, a lot of the processing power of your mind is assessing threats. And this might just be at a party, there could be social threats, but you don't have that processing power available right now. So you can sit at home and think deep thoughts about the future of AI and mankind, but then you go to a shopping mall and you're shopping, you're making choices, and you don't realize that your body is also just assessing the environment for threats, and what's your status in this environment, what's your position in this environment. And then somebody comes up like, hey, what do you think about the future of AI and mankind? And you're like, derp, derp. Because your brain is like, yo, I don't care about this right now. My resources are used elsewhere to make sure you survive well, right? Again, the body hasn't caught up to what we've developed, because the body will only catch up if what we've developed is useful, and its usefulness is displayed by how long, how many hundreds of thousands of years it survives, right? So if it hasn't caught up right now, it's pretty much a damning indictment of we haven't survived or had civilization long enough through all of our histories for the body to be like, yeah, this is useful. Let me adapt to it, right? So panicking, when you panic in today's world, why it's not helpful to you is because you don't fight, in that you don't try to solve your problem. You don't flight, in that you don't ask for help in solving your problems, but you freeze because your body's telling you, yo, you need to do something, you need to do something, you need to do something. But your mind is telling you, you're awesome, you got this, don't worry about it. And if you're on like a time scale, right? So you have to fix a problem by a certain time. Your body might keep telling you, you need to do this, but it's like, yo, time is running out. But you're but you have alternative moods of, oh my God, everything horrible too, I can take care of it. But you freeze. You don't really do anything. You're not fixing the problem, and you're not flying, you're not asking for help. You're not fighting, you're not flighting. So you get stuck in this panic loop, and that is dangerous. That will hurt you. That panic is not useful. So always understand. You might have to physically confront it. You might have to psychologically build yourself better. And no one can reach inside your mind if you're facing this freezing problem, right? The easiest is, a lot of people can't fight their way through it or can't help themselves. The easiest way is to literally ask for help from family first, because they actually care about you most of the time, and then people who genuinely care about you, because you have to get out of this cycle. Otherwise, what's going to keep happening is you're going to keep panicking, keep panicking, keep panicking without doing any of the things necessary for survival, until you actually are, for example, homeless. And this is what people call depression. Because if you wake up in a state of panic, your cortisol levels are rising every single day, but you're not fixing the problem, it's going to have an effect on everything in your life. So, in that lion example, right, when the lion is coming to you, you're panicked. Your body is not interested at that moment in thinking about food and thinking about, dating or having fun with girls or doing other stuff or partying. It's literally like, yo, everything else to forget, you know, I don't give a damn about it, to hell with it. We need to survive right now. So depression is an extension of that panicking that you're not taking care of, and you're unable to identify, like, yo, I need to stop and really make a decision on whether I can fix this, fight myself, or ask people for help to fix this, flight. And the longer you stay in panic, so just imagine you're every day you wake up and you spend most of your day in that state, right? That the lion is charging at you. Do you think you're gonna have a normal life? You're not, because you're not taking any action. And this feedback loop of freezing is making your life worse. That's basically depression. It's like a prolonged period of panic, which shuts down, again, if you're in a prolonged period of panic, what happens? Shuts down your libido, shuts down your interest in life, down your interest in food, shuts down your interest in other things that would make you happy or distract you. That is what it is. And a lot of this blame comes from the conflicting information that you consume from education, from the media, from movies, TVs, that you can do everything. You're living in a dishonest world where dishonest lies are pushed to you, are peddled to you, right? So if someone told you since you were a child, like, hey, this is the world, this is reality, deal with it, know your place in it, you'd have a much happier time. But if someone keeps telling you everything is awesome, you are awesome, you can do whatever you want, and then it turns out not really, someone can come and punch you in the face, and you're not really that superhero. You're just gonna sit there with a punched face, crying like a little bitch, right? So, depression comes from a prolonged panicking. Prolonged panicking comes from an inability to fight or flight, which comes from freezing. And freezing comes from your view of you, which has a feedback cycle, which is, if you're living in such a society where the view of you is dishonest, that society, basically the people in charge of the society hate you. That is where depression comes from. It's basically prolonged panic. Is panic helpful? Yes. But if you do get panicked, the best thing to do is calm yourself down, and then really find out what exactly is panicking you for a prolonged period. Because it's, remember, panicking is a survival reflex. So there is something that your mind and your body is worried about on a survival level, which is basically what? Food, housing, physical threats, right? The Maslow's hierarchy of need, the base of the pyramid, the basics that everybody needs. And it is imperative that instead of panicking and going into depression, when you start panicking over a prolonged period, you start to identify what is panicking you. And once you've identified it, fix it or ask for help for fixing it. If you ask for help fixing it, you'll be fine. It's not bad to ask for help, it's not bad to fix it yourself. But the worst thing you can do is freeze and not do anything. And that is Wade's lesson for today. Hope you get over your panicking and actually do something. Remember, the worst thing to do is freeze because that lion is definitely going to eat you. You're going to get eaten. Until next time, keep it cool, keep it smart, and as always, in Wade World, enjoy.